All right. Time to kick off another brand new hour and another brand new day here of the Steve Gruber Show. Look, we've got a lot to cover again today, but you need to be warned. This show can result in extended periods of American pride, optimism, and uncontrollable enthusiasm for the future of this country. We are kicking off live broadcast and Real America's Voice and MTN, reaching a growing global audience. This is the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you here. Three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, a federal prosecutor has taken off the gloves and targeting illegal aliens in a deep blue state. The warrants are flying, the deportations are happening. Number two, a huge win for President Trump at the Supreme Court as 500,000 Venezuelans, given temporary legal status, have now lost that protection. They'll be on their way out. And number three, the left-wing operatives who call themselves the real journalists, are being exposed for the Democrat bootlickers they really are, as they all act shocked over the news that Joe Biden wasn't just declining mentally, but physically too. Come on. Let's be clear. This isn't some new revelation, as the Biden family is claiming. Even the doctors on MSNBC are setting the record straight. Listen to this.
This is not speculation. If you have prostate cancer that is spread to the bone, then he's most certainly, you were saying, had it when he was president of the United States.
Oh, yeah. He did not develop it in the last 100, 200 days. He had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021. Yes, that I don't think there's any disagreement about that.
Yeah, no disagreement about that. It's even more corrupt than him just having the cancer. He had to have known about it. There's no chance that his White House medical team just forgot to do a prostate exam on an 80-year-old man for 4 years. But we don't know because his medical records aren't near as transparent as those of his predecessors or his successor. Something this doctor points out quite clearly. Listen to this.
It is interesting to note that President Trump's, President Obama's, and President Bush II, in their most recent physicals, in their terms of office, obviously 2025 for President Trump, did comment on their PSA levels. And so they got screened while in office, and they commented on it. It's not easy to access the most recent ones from President Biden. You can read the summary articles. I couldn't access it on the archive site on the White House just before I came on. But according to those that were able to, there is not a report of a PSA test on the most recent physical that was read out for President Biden's last year in office. And so it's to say what was done, what was not done. You and I would be speculating.
You know, it's a lot more than interesting. There are other words that come to mind. Intentional, corrupt, those words come to mind. And that's what Trump is calling out as well. Here's the president weighing in on Biden's cancer diagnosis.
Why did it take so long? I mean, this takes a long time. It can take years to get to this level of danger. So it's a very, very sad situation. And I feel very badly about it. And I think people should try and find out what happened, because I'll tell you, I don't know if it had anything to do with the hospital. Walter Reed is really good. They're some of the best doctors I've ever seen. I don't even know if they were involved, but a doctor was involved in each case. Maybe it was the same doctor, and somebody is not telling the facts. That's a big problem.
I'd say it's a big problem as well, but the liberal media is acting shocked. Shocked as if they haven't spent the last 4 years burying their heads in the sand, ignoring every red flag, every stumble, every incoherent ramble that screamed this man wasn't fit to lead. Give me a break. The train left the station. There was no conductor. They knew it. We knew it. He didn't pass the eye test. We could all see it for ourselves. It's the same media that should have been questioning Biden's ability from day one. Instead, they were propping him up like a weekend at Bernie's, pretending everything was fine, while conservatives have been calling out the fraud since the beginning. Instead, they waited until they could profit off a book deal. That's what Jake Tapper's doing here. He belittled those on the right that would question, and it shouldn't even be right or left. It was obvious for all, but he would belittle those on the right. People like myself are calling out what was perfectly obvious to everyone: the decline of Joe Biden. And the fact is, Joe Biden should never have been president at all. And now suddenly, Jake Tapper and the rest are clutching their pearls, acting like this is some grand revelation. Please. The only shocking thing here is how long they've gotten away with the cover-up. Let's be real, folks. The liberal media, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, and all the rest have been Biden's personal PR team, not journalists, PR members, regurgitating propaganda. Even as late as this month, The View trotted Joe Biden out there and let Jill try to convince the public again that Joe had no issues fulfilling his duties. Watch this embarrassing act.
What is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that, number one. Number two, think of what we're left with. We're left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started. Not since the Civil War. We had a circumstance where we were in a position that the pandemic, because of the incompetence of the last outfit, end up over 1 million people dying. And we're also in a situation where we found ourselves unable to deal with a lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into in the interest of time. And so we went to work, and we got it done. And one of the things that
and Alyssa, one of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us, and they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. I mean, he'd get up, he'd put in a full day, and then at night I'd be in bed, reading my book, and he was still on the phone, reading his briefings, working with staff. I mean, it was nonstop.
Oh, blah, blah, blah. Please, Jill. They still expect you not to believe your own eyes, your own lying eyes. Conservatives have been calling these displays for what they are: a clear sign that Biden wasn't mentally and now physically capable of running the country. But oh no, we are the crazy ones, the conspiracy theorists, the deplorables. They mocked us, censored us, and kept pushing the narrative that Biden was perfectly fine, all while attacking anyone who dared question his fitness. Now, with stage 4 cancer on the table, the truth is out, and their take is clear. Their fake shock is just another act in their long-running performance. Or like Democrat advisor David Axelrod, they're using this story to once again distract you from conversations about one of the biggest cover-ups, maybe the biggest cover-up in all of American history. Listen.
His medical condition now, his announced medical condition now, do you believe that silences or delays a lot of conversations about his, last year and a half of his presidency for now?
Yeah, well, I think those conversations are going to happen, but they should be more muted and set aside for now as he's struggling through this.
They shouldn't be muted or set aside. You, David Axelrod, and the rest should be called to account for lying to the American people time and again. You and the media and his close circle like Jill and Hunter all should be held accountable. We have more after the break here. Good morning. It's the Steve Gruber Show. You know, this whole deny and deflect, this whole strategy, I can assure you this was Joe Biden's inner circle playbook. The entire time, get him elected while lying to Americans, just gaslighting everyone that he was capable. And then have him step down a year in with his cancer diagnosis as a way to make all the questions about his cognitive decline just go away. They want to get him elected for the second time and then pass the baton to Kamala Harris. They knew Biden was in decline before he even shuffled into the Oval Office. That's why they hid him in the basements during the 2020 campaign. Fed him scripts and trotted him, well, they didn't really trot him out. They slow walked him out like a puppet for carefully staged appearances with giant teleprompters. And remember the fake Oval Office set there that they used? Now we find out he's got stage 4 cancer. And we're supposed to believe this is news to them? Please. How does a sitting president's, or even going further back, a vice president's medical team miss something this catastrophic? Where were the rigorous health checks? Where was the transparency? Either they're incompetent or they're part of the lie. I'm betting on both, actually. The Democrats have been so obsessed with clinging to power, they let a man in obvious decline make decisions that affect every single one of us. It's not just negligence, it's betrayal. Of course, we're not sure how many decisions he was making because the auto pen took over. How about J.D. Vance giving a masterclass in diplomacy while calling a spade on this issue? Here he is.
Speaking of Joe Biden, sir, do you have any thoughts on his diagnosis?
Yeah, look, I mean, first of all, of course, we wish the best for the former president's health. And, you know, it sounds pretty serious, but hopefully he makes the right recovery. Look, I will say, whether the right time to have this conversation is now or at some point in the future, we really do need to be honest about whether the former president was capable of doing the job. And that's no, you know, that you can separate the desire for him to have the right health outcome with the recognition that whether it was doctors or whether there were staffers around the former president, I don't think he was able to do a good job for the American people. And that's not politics. That's not because I disagreed with him on policy. That's because I don't think that he was in good enough health. In some ways, I blame him less than I blame the people around him. And why didn't the American people have a better sense of his health picture? Why didn't the American people have more accurate information about what he was actually dealing with? This is serious stuff. And this is the guy who carries around the nuclear football for the world's largest nuclear arsenal. This is not child's play, and we can pray for good health, but also recognize that if you're not in good enough health to do the job, you shouldn't be doing the job.
Absolutely
Okay.
true.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely nailed it. Now, look, the liberal media should have been questioning Biden's ability all along, but they didn't. Because they're not in the business of telling the truth. They're in the business of protecting their own narrative, which is often, if not always, to protect the Democrats. They fawned over his so-called empathy while ignoring his inability to walk up the stairs of Air Force One without falling down. They attacked Trump for mean tweets but gave Biden a free pass for not knowing what state he was in half of the time. Conservatives like me on X, talk radio, and independent outlets have been screaming into the void, warning that this presidency was a sham. We were dismissed as fringe lunatics. Now, the chickens have come home to roost. We were right about all of it. I was right about all of it from day one, and the media's feigned surprise is as hollow as their credibility. This is bigger than Biden's health, folks. It's about a corrupt system, a Democrat media complex that thought it could deceive the American people and get away with it. But the truth has come out. It always does. Even when they continue to platform the gaslighting of politicians like Senator Van Hollen, who try to wave off the issue with hindsight is 2020 nonsense. Oh, good gosh, listen to this.
In hindsight, do you think Democrats were too willing to look the other way?
Well, hindsight is 2020. We know a lot more now than we knew then. I can just say personally, I had limited interactions with President Biden at the time. He came to the Key Bridge in Maryland when it collapsed, and we had a good conversation. So hindsight is 2020. Obviously,
Okay,
if we
enough.
could redo this tape.
Hindsight is 2020, but lying is straightforward, all right? You didn't need to have hindsight to see that Joe Biden was incapable. They could have taken Robert Hur's conclusions seriously. They could have listened to and released those tapes, but they didn't. They refused. These grifters have been calling conservatives fascist for the last 10 years, but it is a fascist government that lies to the public about its leader and deploys the media to parrot those same lies and talking points. The lies, the cover-ups, the gaslighting, it's all been exposed. And while we pray for Joe Biden's recovery, we cannot ignore the reality. This presidency, the presidency of Joe Biden, was a fraud from the very beginning. The American people deserve better. We deserve a leader who's strong, transparent, and actually capable of doing the job. Something else you deserve, a good cup of coffee. That's right. No, not Joe Biden, but coffee, of course. 1775 coffee. Don't forget to get involved and get into a good cup of coffee, not weak corporate nonsense. There's 1775 coffee, bold, high quality, built for those who refuse to compromise. Hand-picked, high-altitude, single-origin beans, roasted to perfection, no toxins, no shortcuts, just damn good coffee. Maybe Joe Biden could have used some coffee, clear his head, get in the game, wake up, walk straight. Maybe. If you want in, head to 1775coffee.com/Gruber. Promo code Gruber, save 10%. Look, Joe Biden wasn't ready. Joe Biden wasn't ready at all. Oh, by the way, when you get into 1775 coffee, every dollar you spend, it's an entry to win a Cybertruck, $30,000 in cash. 1775 coffee, bold flavor, exceptional quality, no BS. Not the BS like we got from, oh, good Lord, MSNBC. You can take that down. Meet the press. All the rest. I mean, these people are dishonest, and I'll tell you why. They're all in it together. All of these so-called journalists at a high level there, and these politicians, they went to the same colleges, members of the same fraternities and sororities. They're all buddies together. It's true. And they want to be able to go, these journalists, so-called, which are more like fiction writers a good part of the time, want to go to the parties on Friday and Saturday night. They want to be part of proper Washington society. Telling you the truth? Not even a consideration. Not even a consideration. Just carry the water. Keep to the talking points. Sad, isn't it? All right, we'll take a break. Nick Hopwood will be coming along on the economy. All right, we'll be talking about more of this in the next hour, but I'll lead into this one a little bit right now. Federal charges have been filed against one of those members of Congress that tried to bust into that New Jersey ICE detention facility. The mayor of Newark had the charges dropped. Ross Baraka, charges dropped, but for one of those members of Congress, not so quick. The acting U.S. attorney for the New Jersey district, as you know, or maybe you don't, Alina Habba, the former advisor and attorney for Donald Trump, is now acting there. And she has filed federal charges against Congresswoman LaMonica McIver for misconduct toward law enforcement in front of Delaney Hall earlier this month, but she has dismissed the trespassing charge against the Newark mayor, Ross Baraka. Here's what was put out on X yesterday. Today, my office has charged Congresswoman McIver with violation of Title 18, U.S. Code, Section 111A1, for assaulting, impeding, and interfering with law enforcement. It is a federal charge. It's a serious charge against this member of Congress. The New York mayor, Baraka, was charged with a Class C misdemeanor trespassing. Baraka says he was targeted in this. Here's one of the other comments from the DHS. if this was a typical U.S. citizen and they tried to storm into a detention facility that houses dangerous criminals or any person at all, they would be arrested. Just because you're a member of Congress or just because you're a public official does not mean you are above the law. That comes from Tricia McLaughlin. She's the DHS Assistant Secretary. Like I said, we'll talk more about this a little bit later in the program, but federal charges against a Democratic congresswoman following confrontation at that ICE facility, and it is warranted, and it is appropriate. If you're looking to take control of your health, at the Wellness Company, they offer doctor-formulated supplements, personalized care to boost your wellness. They want you to be feeling good today. I want you to be feeling good. Whether it's immune support, heart health, or just feeling your best every day, they've got you covered. Become a member today and enjoy exclusive access to expert consultations, premium products, and health content. Are you ready to start? Take control of your health? All right then, twc.health/Gruber. Do that now. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save 10%. The Wellness Company. Your health, your way. twc.health/Gruber. twc.health/Gruber. Straight ahead, Nick Hopwood will talk about the economy with me after the break. All right, back to it now. I'm looking at the market's up a little bit again yesterday. It's almost back to 43,000 on the Dow. I mean, it's one bit of good news and then more good news. We're all the way back, it looks like to me, or close. the economy seems to be humming along quite nicely. If we get a drop in interest rates, it could really take off. Nick Hopwood is a certified financial planner, regular contributor to this program, and the founder at Peak Wealth Management. Nick, thank you for being here, as always.
Steve, thank you for inviting me.
Last week, if I'm not mistaken, I think the market went up every day. Was I wrong? I think the same thing happened a couple of weeks ago. This is pretty good winning streak. What can you tell me about it? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, you're right. Last week, the market was up all 5 days, which is very rare. But adding even more interesting to the fact that 2 weeks before, it was up 5 days in a row as well. So 2 out of 3 weeks, up 5 days in a row. It's never happened before.
Really?
So it's unprecedented. But if we have 1 week, right, it's very bullish looking out a year. I'm not saying that, the next month is going to be fantastic, but looking out the next year is very bullish.
Well, what I would say is, look, there are a lot of people that had a lot of fear mid-April. And, they're the people on the big media companies, it's going to be the worst April since 1932. And, all this fear-mongering and so forth. None of that has turned out to be true. April actually bounced up at the end. May has been solid so far. We're not all the way back. But we're close. And a lot of people are back to even, and some are actually doing better depending on how their portfolio was set up. So we're in pretty good shape all of a sudden. What do you think about tax cuts going forward? That's a big part of this. The Trump tax cuts, the one big beautiful bill, that's all part of what people hope will continue to fuel the economy. What are you seeing? What are you thinking?
Well, I love the tax cuts, okay? I don't want to see us go back to 2016 levels, but I'm not excited about this particular bill. It's very disappointing on the spending side because we don't have a revenue problem, right? When Trump cut taxes in 2017, revenue went up and the Treasury is flush, okay, with income coming in. The problem is the expenses, and I'd like to just embrace what Ron Johnson and Rand Paul have been saying and get us back to those 2019 levels of spending. If we can do that, I think everything would be great. But this bill is not doing it for me on spending. What do you think about that, Steve?
Well, as I look at this bill, I spoke to Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin on Friday here on this program. He said he's a no. If this bill stays the way it is, he is a no on this because he says, I cannot support $2 trillion in additional debt each year for the next 10 years, which would push us to nearly $50 trillion in debt. Excuse me, nearly $60 trillion. We'd be in the high 50s. So that concerns me. If people look, there's no bigger supporter of Donald Trump and his agenda than Ron Johnson of Wisconsin is a conservative Republican. If he's not on board, it's a red flag for me. What do you say?
That's exactly my concern. I'm with Ron all the way. And so let's just assume that it does get passed as it is or something similar. We're looking at, maybe President Trump signing it in July. And the Treasury is going to be completely out of money by then, right? So now we're going to have Secretary Bessent come into the bond market issuing perhaps $1.7–2 trillion worth of Treasury bills, notes, and bonds. And there's really only one other time that we've been up at that 1.7 trillion level in a short amount of time. And interest rates did go up. They spiked a bit on that because maybe the market can't handle that much all at once. So that's a big concern for fixed income investors. We want to avoid, having to issue that many bonds in such a small amount of time.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Nick, I just saw yesterday long-term yield on bonds has surpassed 5% right now.
Right.
Which means people are concerned, right?
Yeah. Let's tie that in with a credit downgrade, right? So the long-term stability. Yep. The Moody downgrade. Let's go back to 2011 when S&P downgraded us. I'll never forget on Sunday night when futures opened after that announcement, the S&P ended up down like 6-point-something%. Fast forward to yesterday, right, the first day after the Moody's downgrade, market was actually up. So this time is different, but yes, it did push yields higher, especially in the long term. So the 30 years up above 5% now, the 10 years hovering around 4.4, and that's okay, right? But we do want to see those Fed cuts, which will help our fixed income investors. It'll help the Treasury pay the interest, and the stock market loves cuts. Hey, wouldn't you like to refinance that mortgage out of a 7% mortgage and be able to buy a car at less than 7%? So there's a lot of benefits with cutting the rates, but the Fed maybe 1 or 2 times later this year is the path we're on.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Jerome Powell claims to be nonpartisan. I'm sorry, Nick, I don't buy it based on his behavior. Jerome Powell is a political animal. Am I right or wrong about that?
Well, it's interesting because he was appointed by Trump originally, but you wouldn't expect it based on what's been happening.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so. Another note that came to mind for me here, and I saw this. There's an argument between Trump and Walmart about raising prices, but I saw a guy post on X. I don't remember the company, pretty big company that supplied, I think it was an auto parts to Walmart, and said, "Wait a second, Walmart. Why are you going in and raising prices on our product? We're 100% American made." He called him right out, said, "I will never shop at Walmart and I will never send my products to Walmart anymore because they're lying to the American people. 100% American made. Walmart's jacking up the price on these 100% American made products." And he called him out on it on X. I thought it was pretty interesting. But this feud is kind of brings everything into full relief, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's really unprecedented to have the president arguing with prices for a retailer. But, Walmart is basically blaming Trump, and Trump is shooting back. I don't know the interworkings of Walmart and all the details and which products are facing tariffs and not. But, I understand if Walmart has to pass along some of the costs. But like you say, there's going to be examples where maybe that's not exactly true because it's American made. So I get that. But I just don't think it's a good look for anyone to have Trump and Walmart arguing publicly about and blaming each other. I don't like it.
All right. I got about 30 seconds here. You got one last thing that was on your list here, and it's got me intrigued. How do I make $126,700 tax-free in retirement? It's right there. I'm like, is this a misprint? Apparently
it's real.
It's not.
Real. Okay, Steve, imagine you're retired, so there's no working income. Imagine
I can imagine being retired. I like that. Go ahead.
Imagine you're delaying Social Security to get the max. And
All
imagine
right.
you don't have a pension, right? So there's no income unless you start drawing from the portfolio.
All
well,
right.
if you have a big brokerage account, right? Your brokerage account has capital gains. I'm not talking about your IRA or your 401k. Your brokerage account. You can show zero income, but show 126,000 of long-term capital gains, and they would all be at 0%. So there's your tax-free retirement. But most people don't have big brokerage accounts. They just have 401s. My call to action is to fund your brokerage account.
All right. And if you want a second opinion, look, we got a QR code we can put up there. You can talk to Nick anytime you want. About what he thinks about the future, he seems reasonably optimistic, but there's a couple of caveats to that, as you can tell. There always are, because he doesn't have control over Jerome Powell's thinking. Neither do I. But that QR code, you can get a second opinion. You can also go to peakwm.com if you ever want to talk to Nick and say, "Hey, what do you think about what I'm doing here? Do I need a brokerage account? How should I invest? High risk, low risk, medium risk?" There it is. Nick Hopwood, always appreciate you being here. Thank you.
And don't forget the /Gruber, peakwm.com/Gruber. Thank you,
Well
Steve.
done. I'll take a break, and I'll be right back. Are you All right, back to it as we dig through this day. So much to talk about every single day. These news cycles just never let up, do they? They do not. So Donald Trump is pursuing peace. We're seeing him do this. Long conversation with Vladimir Putin yesterday. We're told that those peace talks between Putin and Zelensky of Ukraine could move to the Vatican. We'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, Asaf Romarowski is a PhD, a Mideast scholar, the executive director of the Association for the Study of the Middle East and Africa, ASMEA, and the executive director of Scholars for Peace in the Middle East. Joining me now. Asaf, thank you for being here.
Good morning, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Donald Trump also seeking peace, obviously, in the Middle East. He made the trip to Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar. A lot of that conversation was focused on how do we bring peace to the Middle East and a new day. Are you optimistic about this?
Well, I mean, you got to put it into context. I mean, Donald Trump is a transactional individual. Foreign policy is hard to kind of look at. I think that the key visit here was the Saudis. And it's also important to contextualize that from an economic standpoint, what I think Donald Trump was doing here is mostly giving it, securing and fortifying the American economy versus the Chinese economy. Chinese have been investing in the Middle East. They've been trying to do a kind of a realignment of the Middle East. And so when he's looking for more investment and trying to create America first, economically speaking, that's where it was basically going in that regard. I think the Saudis are critical here, especially when it comes to Iran. There's an unknown deal again. There's talks about what's in the specific of the deal. Nobody exactly knows. That Iran has agreed to some kind of deal, but not exactly clear. The Saudis are literally the guardians of Mecca, represent the greatest divide in the Muslim world between Sunnis and Shiites. Saudis defending Sunnism, and Iran, of course, representing Shiites. And so from that perspective, that was fortifying a connection. And of course, the investments that he got back, obviously, are positive. They don't exactly relate. What was in the background was missing for me, of course, was the war in Gaza.
Right.
That was, of course, part of the other issue that was playing out here. And on the heels of this visit, the last living American Israeli was released right before Trump's visit at an Alexander. And so that was in the background, but not the centerpiece.
So when Netanyahu says Israel wants full control of Gaza, how do you see that? And Donald Trump obviously has played this idea that Gaza should be emptied of the people there, rebuilt and turned into a Mecca for tourists and so forth. Look, I'm going to try something new. He caught a lot of hell for that from certain circles. But look, it's time to try something new. How do we achieve and is it even possible, Asaf, is it to get long-term peace in the Middle East?
Well, I mean, I think that's the objective. I mean, I think that the steps of how to get there are very difficult and very challenging. I mean, what led to 10-7 is the fact that the Israelis are pretty much asleep at the wheel, and they have been engaged in what I would consider to be mowing the grass. And for 25 years, they've allowed the Hamas to rebuild, to fortify themselves. And so the question for the Israelis now remains is how do you maintain safety and security for the southern community of Gaza and allow them to move forward? Hamas has basically been 95% devastated. Great. There's still a civilian population, such as it is inside the Gaza Strip. They have to disentangle, but they have to ensure safety. And the bigger issue, which is related to Trump's comment and the problem that, where Jerusalem and Washington, I would say, are trying to figure out what this will look like is who is the entity that's going to govern Gaza? And that's the big question that we're looking at here. Do you trust the Palestinian Authority, again, run by a octogenarian who has supported the Hamas attacks all around? Are the Saudis going to get involved, or the Arab world, the other countries like the Jordanians, like the Egyptians, a la Trump's idea, which is a good idea. I mean, trying to change the parameters of what's going to play out here. Those are all potentials, but no answers yet.
No answers yet at all. I like the idea, and you're right, Donald Trump is a transactional president. If he can figure out how to make an exchange, whatever that might look like, for peace in the Middle East, he would do it. I mean, you look at how he basically took India and Pakistan and said, if you guys don't stop shooting and killing each other, we're going to cut trade off from this region. And they came right to the table. They said, okay, we're in. You know, telling Gaza you're going to cut off trade doesn't mean much. There's no trade there. It's a disaster area. It's a mess. We need something new. We need new thinking, because what we've tried ever since I came onto this planet, 60 years worth of fighting and death and destruction. We need a new path forward. I'll give you the last word.
Agreed. I mean, I think we need to change the parameters here, and I think that that the Israelis would be open to that. But again, I think that there's still close to 58 at this point hostages still in Gaza, still pawns in this game. We're guesstimating about between 21 to 24 that are still alive. That's still hurting the equation, but something needs to give to change all of this. And I think the big carrot, which is something that Trump has been talking about, is the expansion of the Abraham Accords. That would be a very positive for the region. Normalization with Israel and these other Arab states has been very helpful. Would be helpful economically. It'll be helpful for the region for stability all around, and would be also helpful for the United States. So that's all positive. That's the goal to get there, and the Saudis can play a significant role with that if they're willing to play ball.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Asaf, I appreciate you being here. It'd be nice to move forward in a different direction. That's for sure. We all agree on that, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you as always, Steve. I appreciate it.
There you have it. Look, I give Donald Trump credit. He's trying to think of new ways, creative ways, not to bring war, but to bring peace. He says he'll drop the sanction on Syria. A few strings attached to that, but he's in the process of doing that apparently. He says he'll talk to Lebanon. A few strings attached, but we'll move forward. We'll have conversations that we haven't had in years under this president in the pursuit of peace. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Talk to everyone. Friends, enemies, people in the middle. Talk to everyone and bring greater peace and prosperity to this planet. I'll take a break and be right back. If you didn't see it yesterday, Donald Trump signed an important piece of legislation yesterday. It's called the Take It Down Act. The Take It Down Act focuses on deep fake pornography videos and revenge porn, all kind of tied together. If you take a video of a woman that you're dating and then you break up and you later use those elements to create deep fakes or use revenge porn because you had videos, intimate videos, and you put those out on social media or whatever, that is now a serious crime, as it should be. It'd make publishing this content illegal, would subject violators to mandatory restitution and criminal penalties such as prison, a fine, possibly both, depending on how far you stray. The bill would also subject people to criminal penalties who make threats to publish these visual depictions, some of which are created using artificial intelligence. It's frightening what can be done. I mean, some of the stuff is funny. I see, Donald Trump as a little kid. There's a video of me as a little kid talking that we did here. It's kind of fun. I get that. But when you cross that line, it's not fun anymore. It's vindictive. It's mean. It's evil. It is now illegal because Donald Trump signed the Take It Down Act in the Rose Garden yesterday with Melania, who's been a big supporter of this legislation. You've heard this before. Capitalism is evil. Capitalism is freedom. But what is capitalism? Do you know? If everyone's talking about it, shouldn't you at least understand it completely? That's where Hillsdale College comes in. They're offering a brand new free online course, Understanding Capitalism. In just 7 fast lectures, you'll understand profit and loss, human nature, and freedom, why capitalism is not a system of greed, but a system of morality and liberty. That's just one of over 40 free online courses at Hillsdale now. No tuition, no strings. Do this for yourself. I've done this. They're great. Binge watch Hillsdale. Forget Netflix. Binge watch Hillsdale. They're so well done. Gruberforhillsdale.com is the place to go to enroll. Easy. Again, it's free. And ready when you are. Gruberforhillsdale.com. Put it up on your smart TV and make yourself smart. Right? Right. Gruberforhillsdale.com. That's what you want. In the next hour here, we're going to be talking about that big, beautiful bill with Dr. Jameson Taylor. We're going to talk about Joe Biden's diagnosis with the doctor as well. It's all straight ahead here on the Steve Gruber Show. Live from Studio G and fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Here we are lighting another brand new hour on fire here at the Steve Gruber Show. Warning, the Steve Gruber Show often results in extended periods of American pride, optimism, uncontrollable enthusiasm for the future of this great country. Live in all 50 states and around the world. It's a dirty job. I'm going to dig in and do it. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, President Trump took a big swipe at revenge porn and deep fake pornography when he signed the Take It Down Act to make such things illegal with severe punishment. Number two, after spending more than 2 hours on the phone with Vladimir Putin, it now appears President Trump has moved closer to peace in Ukraine, and ceasefire talks could soon begin in the Vatican. That's good news. And number three, the debate is over. The debate is over. The Democrats, the mainstream media, and the White House all lied about the condition of Joe Biden. And worse, we now know they weren't just lying about his dementia and his mental state and his decline, they also lied and hid his cancer that has clearly been present for years, probably through his entire presidency. They lied about his mind and his body. They did. They lied about his mind and his body. That's the way it is. That is the way it is. They lied about everything. Let me put it this way. The entire presidency of Joe Biden was, simply put, a fraud. There's nothing else you can ascertain from any of this. This cancer that he has, this stage 4 cancer that is metastasized to his bones, doesn't happen in 100 days. Doesn't happen in 200 days or a year. The decline mentally that we all witnessed doesn't happen in 100 days or 200 days or a year or 5 years. It's cumulative. Joe Biden wasn't ready to be president ever. The denial will not stop, though. Some cannot stop lying about Joe Biden, like James Clyburn, the guy that helped get him elected in the first place, cannot stop lying about Joe Biden and his condition. Listen.
Do you think that Joe Biden really would have been able to perform as president all the way through January 2029 when he would be 86?
Yes, I thought that back then. I still think that. But I don't know that. When people ask me, did I know this or did I know the other? And the fact of the matter is, no, I didn't. And that's, you make my point here. So it's not all about age. I've seen people develop Alzheimer's when they're in their 30s and 40s. So it's not about age. It's about the ability to do the job. And I never saw anything that allowed me to think that Joe Biden was not able to do the job. Just that simple.
He was not capable of doing the job, and it is just that simple. Joe Biden was using the auto pen from early on. Why? He wasn't present. Not in mind or body. Congressman James Comer now has the receipts, and he's willing to share them with everyone. Listen to what he says.
It clearly shows that he was in significant mental decline. It questions who was actually making the decisions. So what we found is not just with the pardons he issued, but many of the executive orders that the courts are now using to Trump-proof, many of the executive orders that President Trump is trying to implement to make government more efficient, many of these executive orders, as well as the pardons of Biden's entire family as a result of our investigation, these were all signed with the auto pen. And clearly from that interview, which was many, many months prior to the heavy use of the auto pen, Joe Biden wasn't capable of making decisions. He wasn't coherent. We think we've identified who the staffers are.
So they're going to find out from the staffers who was running the auto pen. More importantly, not who was running the auto pen, at whose direction was the auto pen being run. That's the question you have to answer. We know because when Speaker Johnson spoke to Joe Biden about canceling natural gas deals, he goes, I didn't do that. Well, yes, you did. Here it is. And he's like, Oh. You see, because a lot of things are done in Joe Biden's name that Joe Biden had no idea. He signed something like 2,500 commutations on one day. Right? Wrong. The auto pen. It was an assembly line with the auto pen. The feed was coming through and the documents are being signed. Boom, boom, boom. One after. Donald Trump is right. He's sad for Joe Biden, as he should be. But this is a cover-up of epic proportions. This is the biggest scandal, as the president has said time and again, and I agree with. This is now by far the biggest scandal in American political history. Oh, by the way, every now and then you'd find some truth circulating on mainstream media. Here's an example from CBS.
CBS News had a brief conversation with Frank Biden, one of President Biden's two younger brothers, and here's what he told us. He said, "I'm incredibly proud of my brother. Selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time we have left. He is a genuine
Whatever time
hero.
we have left.
Country
Stop
over
right there.
self.
Stop the
Sounds
presses.
corny and our cynical.
Whatever time we have left, that was July of 2024. There's a good chance, I'm going to tell you right now, there's a good chance Joe Biden won't see July of 2025. That's how dire this is. He's an 82-year-old man with stage 4 cancer. And he also doesn't have the wits about him. Oh, by the way, Donald Trump, here's what, I've got the Donald Trump clip now. Here's what he said about Joe Biden's cancer. Listen.
Why did it take so long? I mean, when you, this takes a long time, can take years to get to this level of danger. So it's a very, very sad situation. I feel very badly about it. And I think people should try and find out what happened, because I'll tell you, I don't know if it had anything to do with the hospital. Walter Reed is really good. They're some of the best doctors I've ever seen. I don't even know if they were involved. But a doctor was involved in each case. Maybe it was the same doctor, and somebody is not telling the facts. That's a big problem.
Yeah, it's a big problem. There's no question about that. We were lied to, my friends, from day one. In fact, before day one. We were lied to about Joe Biden and his condition before he became president. This is why he was hidden in the basement. This is why he was only brought out of the box on very rare occasion, dusted off, and pushed in front of a prompter. Because his mental ability was already diminished in 2020. His physical capacity diminished as well. We now know that. At some point, we'll get the truth about how old his diagnosis is. You cannot hide it any longer. You've been caught. And I would say this. For Jill Biden and those in his inner circle, this is elder abuse. If you push this man forward when his body and mind were both compromised, that, by definition, is elder abuse. It's also abuse of our republic, because you're not to be trusted, ever. All right, still to come today, we're going to talk about the big, beautiful bill as it advances this week. Will it get done? And what is the ramifications? What are the spending ramifications? We'll talk about it coming up on The Steve Gruber Show. right, well, the big, beautiful bill finally got out of committee 1716, but it's by no means a shoo-in to get signed because it may not make it to the president's desk. I know that because we've had people on this program who say they're not going to support it. Senator Ron Johnson on this program Friday from Wisconsin. No bigger supporter of Trump than Senator Johnson says, I'm not supporting this. Joining me now, Dr. Jameson Taylor, Director of Policy and Legislative Affairs for the AFA Action, the government affairs affiliate for the American Family Association, joining me now. Doctor, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on today.
All right, if Ron Johnson can't support the bill, and the reason he told me quite clearly, he said there's too much spending here. I can't support a bill that has $2 trillion of additional debt every year for the next 10 years, driving our national debt to almost $60 trillion. If you can't get his support, it's not going to pass. Where are we in this?
Well, I think there's three things to think about with this budget, and we're looking for a vote from the House in about 2 days. So this is moving very quickly. President Trump has arrived to basically start to lobby Congress to pass the big, beautiful bill. So things are happening right now. But the three things to think about with this budget: number one, this is 1,000% Republican budget. This is their budget. They own it. The way that they're looking to pass the budget is a process called reconciliation. And that means that they don't need a single Democrat vote to get this budget passed to send it to President Trump. So right now, what you're seeing is Republicans are negotiating against themselves. And you know, in the past, when we see that, things do not go well. Things simply do not go well. But what this means is that anything good in the budget, whether it's, for instance, defunding big abortion providers, which hardly anybody supports. I mean, independents and moderates don't want their tax dollars going to pay for abortion, whether it's immigration enforcement, whether it's reforming welfare, getting fraudsters off of welfare. These are Republican things. These are Republican ideas, and Republicans will be responsible for that. But anything that's not in that budget, for instance, failing to reform welfare, failing to enforce immigration laws, that's going to be on the Republicans as well. So again, 1,000% the Republicans own this budget. And the second thing to think about with this budget is this is it. This is the chance for Republicans to show that they can govern. This is the big, beautiful bill. They're sticking everything into one bill, I think, because there's a lack of confidence that they could actually get two bills passed, for instance. But this is their chance. And so we have to evaluate them, objectively. Let's look at what the Democrats do in this situation.
All right.
Nancy Pelosi, she would have brought people in and said, you're voting for this bill. You're voting for this. I know it's going to be tough for you when you go back home. Maybe we're talking about Democrats who have more moderate conservative districts, whatever it may be. She's saying, we're going to support you in that election, but you're taking one for the team. And the Democrats have their eye on the ball when they've done these things like Build Back Better, like Obamacare, whatever it may be, tough, hard votes. The Democrats got it through, and they recognize that, hey, we may lose a couple of seats at the midterms, but we're going to change the course of American history. And that is the question for Republicans with this bill. Are they willing to take very hard votes, knowing that, yes, maybe a few folks will go home for the midterms, but they have to get this through. They have to show they can govern.
Though. When it comes to all this deficit spending, Doctor, Rand Paul won't support it. Ron Johnson won't support it. Probably a host of others won't support it. And if you can't get it through, then what happens to Trump's agenda? Because if you don't get it through, it was all for nothing, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I just said this is a hard vote, but on the other hand, the easiest vote in the world. And this is why. The reason they're talking about deficit spending is because they're thinking, well, we're not going to actually make the cuts that the bill is calling for. Let's say, $2 trillion they're anticipating that the Trump tax cuts are going to cost. We have $2 trillion in fraud Medicaid alone. Fraud. We're not even talking about reforming the program. But Medicaid is a high fraud program, a 20% fraud rate program. If they would remove the fraud from Medicaid over the next 10 years, that's your $2 trillion right there. If you take illegal aliens off of Medicaid, off of welfare programs, there's billions of dollars in savings right there. When you're talking about the budget, most of the budget comes from, most of the U.S. spending comes from 5 categories: Medicare, Social Security, defense spending, interest on the budget. And we can't cut any of those things politically and even practically. For instance, we have to pay the interest or we're going to default on our loans. Where can you cut? Medicaid and Obamacare. So you're seeing senators like Josh Hawley come out and say, well, we can't cut Medicaid. Wait a minute. What we're talking about are work requirements for Medicaid. We're talking about able-bodied adults that are on Medicaid that won't even work to keep their Medicaid. And that shows you that they don't really even value their Medicaid healthcare insurance. They don't even want to work for it. They don't even want to work 20 hours a week, which is what the work requirement is. 20 hours a week to keep their Medicaid.
Yeah.
Let's have Medicaid work requirements right away.
What did we become a land of moochers? I'm going to go ahead and borrow from Ayn Rand, but good God, when did that happen, Doctor? I'll give you the last, serious question, last word to you.
Yeah, it's been one drip after another, and it's led to this flood of moochers, basically. Yeah. There's so much fraud in the welfare program, but I think it's intentional. The Democrats want to crash the system, and they understand that when even Republican voters get on welfare, guess what? They start voting Democrat. But then when they go back to work, they start voting Republican. So for Democrats, welfare expansion is a get out the vote program. Republicans need to realize that, and we need immediate welfare reform.
We do.
Immediate work requirements in the budget. When we do that, we're going to get that savings that people want.
Well, I hope you're right. Dr. Jameson Taylor, Director of Policy and Legislative Affairs at the AFA Action. Doctor, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on the show, Steve.
Greatly appreciated. All right. Still to come. Mary Holland is the General Counsel of the Children's Health Defense. We'll have that coming up. The first 100 days, RFK Jr.'s early actions on Make America Healthy Again. What does she think of that? We'll talk about it. Still to come on the Steve Gruber Show. Tragic story out of Ottawa County, Michigan today. It's a few days old, but here it is. Connor Lauderman, shot in the head by a bullet recklessly fired by a 20-year-old suspect. Happened on the 9th of May at 11 o'clock at night, just after. The shooting was intentional. Multiple rounds fired. It wasn't like as if it was a one-shot accidental discharge. There were numerous rounds discharged. The result of the shooting led to an accidental death. The shooting was intentional. The death was accidental. The Ottawa County Sheriff's Department says that the 20-year-old man, the suspect, obtained a firearm that was located in the residence, then fired multiple rounds through the floor of an upstairs bedroom and penetrated the floor. One struck Lauderman in the head because he was downstairs. Lauderman was an engineering student at Grand Valley. The Kent County Medical Examiner confirmed to Fox the manner of death was accidental. Alcohol played a role. Some drunk guy grabbed a gun, started shooting into the floor. What an idiot. What an idiot. Everyone involved were known to each other. The Ottawa County Prosecutor's Office will review potential criminal charges. Reckless discharge at a minimum, manslaughter most likely. Lauderman, the youngest of 5, according to an online obituary. His older sister mourned him in a birthday message Post on Instagram. Thank you for being the best little brother a girl could ask for. Just sad and stupid. Sad and stupid is what that is. What is wrong with you? Start shooting a gun into the floor, really? That's your plan? That's what you're going to do? You're going to say, oh, I'm drunk. I'm going to shoot into the floor. You're an idiot. Yeah. There's just no excuse for it. None at all. This part of the program brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is my wireless provider. PatriotMobile.com. Promo code Gruber, you'll save 10%. Switching is easy, and you'll get a free month of service by going to Patriot Mobile right now. When we come back, Mary Holland, President and General Counsel of the Children's Health Defense. We're going to talk about Make America Healthy Again. After the break. All right, what about making America healthy again? What about the kids? What about the children? We asked that. I'm not even being facetious about that. Mary Holland is the President and General Counsel of the Children's Health Defense, a former law professor, human rights advocate. She leads legal and policy efforts focused on protecting children's health and medical freedom. She joins me now. Dr. Mary Holland, well, maybe not doctor. Mary, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so give me a general overview of Make America Healthy Again, if you would, and your opinion of it so far behind Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Sure. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. founded Children's Health Defense. We have a legacy of about 20 years of helping to build this movement that he's now catapulted right up to the position of Secretary of Health and Human Services. So, over half of all Americans, Steve, are sick. Over half of all kids are sick. They have one kind of chronic condition or another, whether that's obesity, allergies, diabetes, asthma, ADHD, autism. And these are just reached catastrophic, critical proportions. And up until now, nobody's even called it out. And so Bobby Kennedy is really riding this wave, and it is remarkable, truly remarkable what he's done in the first 100 days. So on Thursday, there will be a commemoration, a celebration in the Oval Office of these first 100 days, where he's really attacked the food issues. He's looked at the autism issues. He's looked at baby formula issues. He's looked at dietary guidelines. He's looking at transparency, getting to real gold standard science at NIH. It is just amazing. The kinds of things that he's started to tackle now just in the first 100 days, together with President Trump.
Right, and obviously he's talking about taking out chemicals and dyes and things that are contaminants that aren't legal in other countries. He said, why do we have it here, right?
Exactly.
When I look, I've told this story in the past, but I'll tell it again today because it seems appropriate. When I graduated high school, there were about 150 kids in my class. There were two really large people, right? Two really large people. That's it. You look at when my oldest daughter graduated in 2008, I went to a choir concert. I thought the risers were going to bust. And that was 2008. It's only gotten worse. Yeah. I mean, you look at pictures of a graduating class from 1965 compared to a class from 1985 and 2005 and 2025. We're not different people. We're different species. I mean, we are enormous now, and that's terrible for heart health and fatty liver and obesity and diabetes and all of these things, isn't it?
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. So we've radically changed the food supply, Steve. As they say, 100 years ago, we didn't have refined sugar. We didn't have refined grains. We didn't have seed oils. We ate a very different diet. We ate more high-fat products. We ate less processed foods. Bobby Kennedy is really attacking ultra-processed foods that aren't about nutrition. They're about tasting good. They have high calories, but they have very little nutrition. So they make us fat, but they don't make us strong. They don't give us the nutrients that we need. And so Bobby's all about radical transparency and gold standard science. We want dietary guidelines, and we want foods that make us healthy, not sick. The European Union really outlaws many of the food additives that we put in here. Just as an example, Fruit Loops has kind of been the poster child. We have petroleum-based dyes in children's Fruit Loops that are outlawed in Canada and Europe. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We are feeding children petroleum. How crazy is that?
Let me ask you this, because one of the things that Bobby has been opposed to are these drugs like Ozempic, specifically Ozempic for young kids, these GLP-1s for treating type 2. I mean, we're at a point when they're offering these drugs to 6-year-olds. That's probably an issue. If you have a 6-year-old that is so obese, I mean, they're facing a life of misery, of joint pain, of illness, of fatty liver, of all sorts of things. And I just saw yesterday this woman that started, and I think this program was called My 600-Pound Life. Guess what? She died at 40. I'm shocked. I mean, we put it on television to make a celebrity of somebody who weighs 600 pounds, and then they die at the age of 40. I mean, shame on us, really.
So I don't, Bobby Kennedy is all about health and wellness and fitness. And he's all about, nutritious food and exercise to help enhance people's fitness. I think the reason that he's been so outspoken about Ozempics and these other semaglutides and GLP-1s is right now they cost $3,000 a month. And literally, Steve, they say you cannot get off of these. I don't think that's strictly speaking true. But when the American Academy of Pediatrics is
I was told the price is about $1,000 a month, and you can get off of them. I know a number of people that
you can.
But my concern is with giving it to children. Is that the best solution?
No, I mean, sort of the American Academy of Pediatrics is now giving this as frontline advice for obesity in children. And I think Secretary Kennedy's point is that's the last option. It's not the first option. The first option is change this kid's diet, change this kid's lifestyle, and you're going to put this kid on a sustainable path towards health for the rest of their life. And I know that the dietary guidelines is a real focus because the dietary guidelines right now preference, I don't know, Fruit Loops over hamburger. They don't make sense nutritionally.
Right. We need to help our children be healthier from the get-go. Less processed food. I mean, get rid of the processed food in large part would be a good start. And get the food pyramid turned the right way. You've got all these Earth Firsters and Green New Deal people saying, don't eat meat, don't eat this. No, actually eat more meat, eat more protein. Get rid of the grains and the seed oils, like you said. Go back to what your parents ate and your grandparents ate, which was more protein and less all this other garbage. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff here. Garbage in, garbage out, they used to say about computers. The same thing is true for people, isn't
100%.
it?
100%. You're absolutely right, Steve.
Yeah. All right, so where do we go from here? What do you hope? Give me your vision of the future for the next year or two with Bobby Kennedy, some of the things you'd like to see.
Well, I'm very hopeful, Steve. Rumor has it, so they lowered drug prices last week. It's gotten no media attention, but that's huge. They've lowered drug prices 40 to 80%. That really enhances Americans' health because we pay the most for drug prices of anybody in the world. And sadly, most people are on some kind of drug. But beyond that, Secretary Kennedy, the rumor has it that they may be going after drug advertising, prescription drug advertising, direct-to-consumer advertising on mainstream media. I am hopeful that that is true because the control of American mainstream media is really absolutely owned by the pharmaceutical industry. So if you take out that money of prescription drug advertising, suddenly we'll start getting more truthful information to the American public, which will help to expand this movement that will be necessary for having real legislation and having Congress get on board with this. Secretary Kennedy has said that by September, he's going to start to outline for us what are the causes of this autism epidemic in particular. 1 in 31 kids in the United States at this point have a diagnosis of autism. And as he points out, 30% of those are severe. These are people.
We got to figure out where that comes from. And I'm going to tell you, I don't believe it's from vaccines. I think that's been borne out pretty well. But I think it is, and this will be a conversation for another day for you and I, but these PFAS chemicals, these PFOAs, these follow suit with the explosion of autism, these forever chemicals, they call them. I got to leave it right there for today. That's a conversation. We can bank that and put it on the to-do list, you and I. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So many things to talk about health-wise that 10 minutes is just enough to scratch the surface. That's Mary Holland, the president of the General Council of Children's Health Defense. I'll take a break. I'll be back in a moment. It's the Steve Gruber Show. right, we're going to jump back into it now. Lori Simmons is going to join me here, the founder of the Big Dog Ranch Rescue. Why? Because today is National Dog Rescue Day. Did you know that? Well, now you know. Now you're in the know. It's National Dog Rescue Day. I personally don't need any more dogs. But I have rescue dogs in my life, a number of them. Lori, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve.
Good to have you here. All right, so here's the question, and it's why do rescue dogs matter, Lori?
There are so many wonderful adoptable family dogs waiting out there in shelters throughout the country, especially in the South.
Why the South?
Mostly in the South is our biggest problem with overcrowding in shelters.
But why?
And they're all just waiting for homes.
Right, but why in the South? Why does the South have a bigger problem than everywhere else?
I really haven't 100% figured that out, but I think mostly, dogs can survive with the climate in the South easier than dogs in the Northeast or Northwest. And, they tend to, when they're out abandoned, populate if they're not spayed and neutered. But a rescue dog is very grateful when you give them a home. And there are just millions and millions of dogs being euthanized in shelters across our country because there aren't enough homes.
Yeah, you say don't shop, adopt. That's what you say. Don't shop, go adopt. Do you have any idea? I mean, I think it's probably millions. I don't know what the number is. How many dogs out there need a home?
There are probably over 8 million dogs sitting in shelters and rescues throughout our country right now that are looking for a home. And, by rescuing from a reputable rescue such as Big Dog Ranch Rescue, or even going to a county shelter and adopting a dog, you're not only saving one life, you're saving two, because you're giving that dog a home and it makes space for them to save another.
All right. So give me an idea. How many dogs have you think you've helped find homes for over your time doing this?
We are closing in on 80,000 dogs saved.
That's pretty remarkable. 80,000 dogs. Now, out of 8 million, that might seem small, but it's 80,000 dogs. It's pretty remarkable.
It's 80,000 dogs. We have our big facility here in Palm Beach County. We have another facility in Alabama. We are building one right now outside of Fort Worth, Texas, and just put a contract on a piece of property in Tennessee. So the need is so great. And these dogs should not be euthanized just because they're in an overcrowded county shelter. They just need time and a loving home.
So, give me a story or two. Tell me a story here, Lori. Tell me a story about a dog that got rescued, that changed the dog's life, that changed a person's life.
Well, we rescue so many dogs from all over, and we pick from those dogs for certain traits, personalities, and ability to learn. We train those dogs for veterans with disabilities such as PTSD, mobility issues. Some of our veterans have no legs. They need dogs to open doors, carry packages. And we've trained over 188 dogs for severely disabled veterans. I would say the changes for these veterans in their life to be able to be comfortable to go out in public, to have the assistance they need. Every day I get letters from our adopters and our veterans saying how much these dogs have healed them. So we heal the dogs, and the adopters or the veterans that get the dogs are healed because of the dog.
That's remarkable. Good story. So you've got facilities in Florida, in Texas, building one in Tennessee. You've got one, did you say, in Alabama? You've got these places all over. Big Dog Ranch Rescue is what it's called. Do you need, I mean, I would guess you need help. I mean, that's a lot of dog food. That's a lot of hands. That's a lot of, dog walks.
We
I mean, you
need a
probably need some
lot of
help.
help. Just our dog food alone is over 700,000 a year.
Yeah, I
Our
would guess.
medical supplies are over 2 million a year. We have 5 full-time veterinarians.
Wow.
These dogs come in with all kind of, issues. They all need spayed and neutered. And we're just, if you can adopt, give one of our dogs a home. We have over 1,500 dogs currently in our care. They're not all big dogs. We have everything from Chihuahuas to Great Danes, puppies to seniors. We've got the dog for you. So go to our website at bdrr.org, fill out an adoption application. If you can adopt, support us by donating or volunteering. We need all the help we can get because there's so many dogs that need saved.
What a great story. It is National Dog Rescue Day. How does somebody find you, Lori?
Go to our website, bdrr.org, initials for Big Dog Ranch Rescue, and you can contact us there or you can call us and we will help you find your new best friend.
bdrr.org. Folks, if you need a dog today, you're in Florida, you're in Alabama, you're in Texas, you're in Tennessee, or you're anywhere in the world, they'll make arrangements. I'm quite sure of that. bdrr.org. Lori Simmons, God bless you for what you're doing out there. Honestly, thank you.
Thank you so much for spreading the word for us, and hopefully a lot of dogs get homes today.
We hope so. We hope so, Lori. Thank you. I'll take a break. I'll check in on sports after this. Maybe I'll give Brock a dog. He can use a dog. All right, time to check in on sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. There was a full schedule of games in Major League Baseball yesterday. American League winners included Boston, Seattle, and Houston. National League winners included Philadelphia, St. Louis, and Arizona. No NBA or NHL playoff games last night. The conference finals in both leagues begin tonight. In the NFL, the world champion Philadelphia Eagles gave head coach Nick Sirianni a multi-year contract extension yesterday. Terms of the deal not disclosed. Sirianni has been with the Eagles since 2021 and has led them to 2 Super Bowl appearances. The San Francisco 49ers have given All-Pro linebacker Fred Warner a 3-year contract extension. It's worth $63 million. He's now under contract to the 49ers through the 2029 season. And there was one game in the WNBA last night. The Seattle Storm beat the Dallas Wings 79-71. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. Greatly appreciate you as always. Look, while crypto elites got rich, those elites buying the crypto, cashing in, working hard. Well, all that happened, hardworking American patriots were left behind, but not anymore. Block Trust IRA is changing that, bringing the crypto opportunity to real Americans just like you. Crypto is fueling President Trump's America First economic miracle. Now is your chance to join the movement. With its Animus AI trading platform, running 24/7, crushing old school strategies and helping patriots like you build serious wealth just like the elites. Named the #1 crypto tech platform by Bitcoin Magazine, Block Trust IRA is offering up to $200 million in protection, and their clients are seeing returns sometimes over 250%. Whether you're a teacher, trucker, retiree, or small business owner, this is your time. Get up to $2,500 in bonus crypto when you sign up now. Go to SteveGruberCrypto.com, SteveGruberCrypto.com. You can learn all about it, find out what it all could mean to you, making retirement great again. SteveGruberCrypto.com. All right, check it out. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have Tom Colson, Ivy Gruber, Katie Hyde, State Representative David Martin. It's all ahead on the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to see you. Let's touch off another brand new hour here of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad you're along for the conversation. Fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day, telling you the truth even when it smarts a little bit. That's what we do here. Three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, Detroit's set to get about $350 million from the Housing and Urban Development for flooding back in August of 2023. How do these things take so long? It's been 2 years. Number two, Attorney General Nessel says that, yes, Jocelyn Benson violated the Campaign Finance Act, and for which there is no penalty at all. Why have it as a violation if it's meaningless? And number three, Joe Biden's cancer. Clearly, that's the biggest story going, Joe Biden's cancer, because it goes along with the idea that we've been lied to about everything. His mental decline, his physical condition, everything else. Donald Trump, by the way, weighed in on the cancer diagnosis. I'm going to change, Anthony. I want you to go ahead and rip bite number one here. Here's what Donald Trump said about it. Listen, bite number one.
Why did it take so long? I mean, when you this takes a long time. It can take years to get to this level of danger. So it's a very, very sad situation, and I feel very badly about it. And I think people should try and find out what happened, because I'll tell you, I don't know if it had anything to do with the hospital. Walter Reed is really good. They're some of the best doctors I've ever seen. I don't even know if they were involved, but a doctor was involved in each case. Maybe it was the same doctor, and somebody is not telling the facts. That's a big problem.
Yeah. It's a big problem. We were lied to. That's the big problem. We were lied to about his mental ability. That's why he was hidden in the basement until they installed him as president. Then they lied continuously about his ability. Now we know that he signed. The auto pen signed thousands of documents. Was he aware of it? It's pretty obviously no, is the answer. Pretty obviously no is the answer. That story is not going anywhere anytime soon. Meanwhile, Donald Trump welcoming the Vatican's offer to host Russia-Ukraine peace talks. Let the process begin. If you missed it yesterday, Donald Trump was on the phone for 2 or 2.5 hours with Vladimir Putin yesterday, a substantive call, working to get peace in Ukraine, to bring that killing to a halt. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? Apparently, negotiations between Russia and Ukraine will begin immediately. I have so informed President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, Ursula von der Leyen of the European Commission, President Emmanuel Macron of France, Prime Minister Giorgio Meloni of Italy, Chancellor Friedrich Merz of Germany, and President Alexander Stubb of Finland during a call with me. Immediately after the call with President Putin, Trump wrote, he's ready to move forward. The Vatican, as represented by the Pope, has stated that it would be very interested in hosting the negotiations. Let the process begin, said Donald Trump. Writing on social media and Truth Social, Trump said the tone and spirit of the conversation with Putin were excellent. We'll see where this leads, but the pursuit of peace continues. The pursuit of peace continues. And another note that you need to know today, Donald Trump has won another Supreme Court victory. The Supreme Court decision ends protections for hundreds of thousands of people living in the United States under protected status designations. So it's almost a Jekyll and Hyde Supreme Court, isn't it? Win one, lose one. Win one, lose one. Win one, lose one. Well, now we won one. The Supreme Court Monday agreed to lift a lower court injunction that blocked President Trump's decision to terminate the protected legal status of hundreds of thousands of illegals living in the United States, in a win for the administration as it looks to deliver on its hardline immigration enforcement policies. The decision clears the way for the administration to move forward with its plans to terminate Biden-era temporary protected status, TPS, for somewhere between 300,000 and 500,000 Venezuelan migrants living here, and allows the administration to move forward with plans to immediately have them removed. All right, there you have it. We'll see where that goes. Meanwhile, where are we on the deals with tariffs? This is something we haven't talked about much recently. It's kind of taken a backseat to all the other news of the day, and that happens Obviously, the news cycle is intense, a lot going on every single day. And the trade deals. How about Scott Bessent on the deals and trade deals? Here's what he said.
I can tell you that with a few exceptions, the countries are coming with very good proposals for us. And I look at these proposals and they want to lower their tariffs. They want to lower their non-tariff barriers. Some of them have been manipulating their currency. They've been subsidizing industry and labor. And I look at these proposals and I think these are excellent proposals, but I wonder, how did we get here? How did the previous administrations allow this to happen to the American people?
Yeah. That's a good question, isn't it? How about smacking the mainstream media robots? I mean, they're so predictable a good part of the time, aren't they? Scott Bessent, he's ready to do it. Here's another example of his work. Listen.
Just like Sean Duffy said with our air traffic control system, we didn't get here in the past 100 days. It's the Biden administration and the spending that we have seen over the past 4 years. We inherited 6.7% deficit to GDP, the highest when we weren't in a recession, not in a war, and we are determined to bring the spending down and grow the economy.
Fair enough, but under President Trump's first administration, he added $8 trillion to the nation's debt in his first term. So there's plenty of blame to go around.
No. But let's review. We were in the rescue portion of COVID. The Biden administration was in the recovery portion. And Kristen, it would have been, if not for Senators Manchin and Sinema, who were no longer in the Democratic caucus, it would have been 4 or 5 trillion more.
I like it. Let me correct the record, Kristen, because you're lying again. You're distorting the record again. NBC News is not to be trusted again. Yeah. Oh, and on the issue of the jet, Bessent nails the lying Jake Tapper, whose dishonest book comes out today, by the way, The Original Sin of Corporate Media. The original sin of corporate media is to take sides with one party or the other. But anyhow, listen to this.
You're a hard-nosed businessman. Even if Qatar isn't asking for anything in return now for the jet, I mean, that's a bill that could come due. Nobody in the Middle East gives things or anywhere in the world, just gives a $400 million jet just to be nice.
Well, I don't know, Jake. The French gave us the Statue of Liberty. The British gave us the Resolute desk. I'm not sure they asked for anything in advance. And the more important airplane deal was there's $100 billion of orders from Qatari Airlines to Boeing. Kelly Ortberg, the CEO of Boeing, was with us in the Middle East. This is the biggest order in the company's history. So, I think that plane deal is much more important than this other one.
Well, I will just say about the Statue of Liberty, I mean, that was authorized by Congress, and it belongs to the American people. It doesn't belong to whoever was president at the time.
Well, I think that this plane would be a gift to the American government.
Yeah. There you have it, Scott Bessent. Doing quite well, by the way, on the circuit, I would say. Yeah. Your Secretary of the Treasury. Coming up on the program, State Representative David Martin of Michigan, Davison Representative, along with Borton of Northern Michigan. The Senate DNR budget is dead on arrival in the House. We'll talk about it. talk about hunting and fishing for a moment. It's important, and it's part of it's part of our ethos here in Camp Gruber. It is. We hunt, we fish, we put that on the table every year. We hunt, we fish, we eat from God's grocery store. It's what we do. But here's the problem. In Michigan, they're trying to make it harder and harder and more expensive all the time. Kind of really aggravating, to say the least. Quite aggravating, to say the least. Join me now, State Representative David Martin. He's from Davison. And along with Ken Borton of Northern Michigan, he is saying, look, this DNR budget is junk. David, thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure, Steve. Good to see you.
All right, look, I hunt and fish every year in Michigan. Quite successfully, I might add. I'm pretty good at it. And as a result, we fill our freezer with venison every year. Ivy hunts, my son hunts, my daughters all hunted here and fished here and still do. And tell me about this DNR budget. First of all, it requires everybody to get one of these passports to go into state parks. So that's a small hike, but it's what, $10 or $20 on everybody. And then they want to raise the cost of hunting everything and sticking it to us again. Have they ever seen they being anybody, have they ever seen a tax hike, a fee hike that they didn't fall in love with as soon as they saw it?
It appears that the formula for budgets in Michigan is take last year, tack on 3% inflation, and pass it and be done with it. That is not what's the operation need of this money? Where's the business model of what it's going towards and the full-time employees and what's actually being produced? We don't see that. They just want to tack on more. And that mandated passport, $10 for every vehicle, not $14 that it is right now, opt in, but $14 or $10 mandated, a government mandate that you must buy this passport. In Flint and Genesee County, we don't even have a state land where our park isn't even developed yet. Why would we get something like my motorcycle? I don't have a passport on that. I do on my vehicle, but not on my motorcycle because I'm not taking it into a state park land. I'm not going that far out and camping or doing something, taking dogs on a motorcycle. So I don't get a passport on that, but I'll be mandated to get a passport.
It's fascinating. And meanwhile, if I'm not mistaken, if I look at the DNR in general, there have been job cuts there for years and years. In fact, I think there's only one conservation officer for the county I live in, and the next one, there's one for 2 counties. That's woefully inadequate, to say the least, to have one DNR officer for 2 counties, and I think that's where it is where I am. At least that's the way it has been. So while this is going on, they also want to raise the price of hunting deer, turkeys, bear, right? They want to raise the price of everything.
Well, one of the problems we have in the state is too many deer.
True.
And you think that raising the fee to go and the license to go get one is going to increase more hunters out there? It's going to discourage hunters. So we need to make sure that we get people in the woods. We've been saying, a lot of the Northern Michigan representatives I've been working with, we've been saying that the DNR has a public relations problem, especially in law enforcement. If they get out and get in the community more, you watch them on TV sometimes, and they seem very polite and they seem very cautious, but they know they're on TV camera. Well, we're mandating cameras for all the conservation officers, and we'll find a way to fund that with a stream that they don't have to worry about every year whether it's going to get budgeted or not. We don't have to worry about the administration changing the policy. There's things we can do for a public relations thing that will encourage people to go out there and enjoy. And we just, if we don't get families into the woods, if we don't get boys learning from their father, and the girls are loving it, it's a big increase in that hunting area. But if we don't do that, we don't demystify firearms, we're not going to have law enforcement officers and military members in the future. We're just not going to have it. They're not going to realize that guns are not the evil thing out there. We can demystify it. It's a tool. It's a safe operation. That's why we have hunter safety classes. We're going to put that in the schools if they want to opt in. There's a lot of things we can do for a public relation thing to make it so that people want to get out in the woods.
We should have capitalized. One of the few good things that came out of COVID was a surge in the number of hunting licenses sold in Michigan, probably in other states too, but here there was a surge. People wanted to get back out in the woods. It was a chance to do something not around people, not with their phone, not with their, their applications on their electronic device. And I think we missed an opportunity there because we're not capitalizing on it. We should have. Additionally, I think, let's be honest about this, Dave, we should be extending deer seasons. Look, if I'm dumb enough to want to go sit in a tree stand in January, I should be allowed to do that. Why? Every state around us, Ohio goes until the first weekend of February. Why not extend the season? You say there's too many deer. It wouldn't account for a lot more deer being taken, maybe a few thousand. But look, we're overrun with the things. They're thicker than fleas. And unless you're a deer hunter, for most people, they're a damn nuisance. Being hit by cars on the highway, eating your fancy flowers in your yard. If you're not a deer hunter, deer for most people are just a nuisance. Why don't we do more to get more deer? I think we should be a $1 state, but that's a story for a different day. I think we would create a lot more tourism for big deer if we did that and shoot a lot more does. I'm going to give you the last word.
So we have been looking at ways to take more does. The hunters in Michigan are fascinated with taking antlered deer, so it's hard to get them to take doe. It has been for years. We got to figure that out. But if you donate it to food banks, the cost of that and the regulations the state puts on it, refrigerated trucks, the processing, it goes up above the price of a hamburger. You might as well just go to the store and donate a hamburger to the food bank, which does not get the deer off the farm fields, does not get it off our bumpers, and it doesn't get into the food bank. There's ways that we should work on donating that and making it a pleasure and a charity to be taking more doe.
I agree. Dave Martin, you come back anytime. We'll solve the world's problems right here on the program in front of God and everybody. I can do that.
Working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it. I appreciate it, Dave. Keep that smile on your face, my friend. We'll get, the DNR, they need some persuasion. I'm the guy, Dave. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Dave Martin from Davison. Talking common sense. We need more of that around here, not less. I'll be right back. I just keep coming back to this. I can't believe that they allowed this to go on. The more I think about what Joe Biden was able to get away with, or his inner circle was able to get away with lying about his health, that is a crime. A crime of omission to the American people. A crime of telling the truth about what was going on with Joe Biden's health was a crime against the American people. You do PSA tests. It's about as easy as it gets. But they say he wasn't diagnosed until he had physical issues with prostate cancer. They're lying. Absolutely lying. And it's not even a close call. You're a man of a certain age in this world, you get tested for prostate cancer. You get tested on a regular basis. And the blood test shows when you're at risk so that they can dig deeper and find out more. They lied to us. They all lied. And they're still lying. They're lying about what they lied about. The cover-up of the cover-up of the cover-up. It'll come out. The biggest scandal in American political history is before us. It wasn't just the mental decline of Joe Biden, which was obvious for anybody who bothered to look. and tell the truth, which we did here for years. Joe Biden wasn't prepared to be president in 2020. He wasn't prepared then. He wasn't equipped to be president for 4 years mentally. And now we know for that entire time, he was compromised physically. Was he being treated for cancer during this time? Or did they pretend it didn't exist just to push him along, push him along, push him along? We know that Joe Biden said in 2022 that he had cancer, said in front of a microphone and cameras. We have that. His brothers said they would just cherish the time they had left. When he left the race for president in July of 2024, what do you mean the time they had left? His brother knew that Joe had cancer. Joe knew that Joe had cancer. And so did Jill and Hunter and Ashley and all of them. Every single one of them. They've committed a crime against the American people. All right, still to come, Katie Hyde from Michigan News Source and Ivy on the Steve Gruber Show. Jocelyn Benson, by the way, said she would come on this program anytime I wanted. I ran into her when Donald Trump was down at the Detroit Economic Club here last fall. She said, anytime you want. Well, we've asked a number of times. She's not come. And maybe the reason is I would ask her questions like, gee, you mailed out all those ballots or those applications for mail-in ballots. You sent out Millions of them. That was contrary to the law. No penalty. Or maybe I'd say you violated the Campaign Finance Act, I understand, according to the Attorney General. But again, there's no penalty for that. So they keep doing these things. And, you know, Dana Nessel, oh, that she broke the law. But there's no penalty. Why have laws if there's no penalty? Perplexing question. Join me now, Katie Hyde from Michigan News Source. Katie, welcome back to the program.
Good morning.
So they have laws and no penalties. It goes back to the mass mail-in ballots and more recently violating the Campaign Finance Act. You wrote about it on Michigan News Source. And yet, why have a law if there's no penalty? Oh, yeah, she's violated the law. It makes them all puff out their chest. There's nothing there. I don't get it. I don't understand.
It's a campaign finance law that has no teeth. That's a question I asked, and the question kind of hangs out there in the ether. There is no good answer, and I would say it's fair enough to assess that we have justice fatigue, so to speak, is that we have these bombshell reports. We have instances where the courts make a declaration, the Attorney General says something, and then there are no consequences to it. Here you have our Secretary of State who is running for the highest office in our state. She announced her gubernatorial campaign in January, and it's been a bungled rollout ever since. So the campaign finance law through Dana Nessel's office found that when Jocelyn Benson gave a press conference in the Austin building there in Lansing and said that she was running for governor, that violated a specific act. But there's nothing there. It's not even a slap on the wrist. And State Representative Angela Regas, who represents the west side of the state, issued a statement last night, and she said Nessel weaponized her office against barbers and waitresses during COVID-19, and Regas was a hairdresser at the time, and so she felt the impact of that. Regas goes on to say, but she lets her political allies off with a warning when they break the law to help each other win elections. And that really is a powerful statement as to what's going on here. We have laws, but they have no teeth as to allow the consequences that need to come.
Yeah, that's right. And so, but again, I come back to why would you have, look, they're violating the law to benefit themselves in an election. That's what was happening with both of these events. Mass mail-in ballots, using a state property to do the, and no penalty. I guess some people are above the law, Katie. Maybe I'm mistaken, but it seems that some people are above the law.
It looks like the State House, though, Steve, is trying to hold Benson's feet to the fire. They have issued a subpoena requesting election training materials that she sent to all the clerks throughout the state in Michigan's 83 counties. And she has given them documents only after months of back and forth and only after a subpoena was issued. But then Representative Rochelle Smith, who is on the House Oversight Committee and a former clerk herself, said, these are not the documents we asked for. If you are wanting transparency, if you are running to be a governor of this state, if you are the chief election official, which she is in this state, give us the documents that we're requesting. And so she's not doing that. She has this poorly rolled out campaign. I would dare to say, if you look at how well Benson's campaign is going, it's not going well.
I would say not either. That's why, and these things are not helping, because any opponent of hers is going to point this out. Oh, you did this, you did this, you did this. And they're also going to point out, oh, there's no penalty for it. How convenient. I mean, make no mistake, I said this long ago, and I'm just going to assume that I got this right and I nailed it, was that when they mailed the applications for mail-in ballots out by the millions, contrary to state law, that she probably spoke to the Attorney General's office and said, hey, if we do this, what? If this, then what? And the then what is there's nothing to worry about because there's no penalty. And I'm sure they talked about it. All right, I want to move on to another story here. Because this is one of the most, I don't know, this is just a heartbreaking, gut-wrenching story to me, Katie. And I've been reading about it on Michigan News Source for a while. This Oakland County woman apparently abandoned her kids for years. They're in this, basically they're shut into this house. It's filthy. It's like a hoarder's house, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it to people that are seeing it on the radio. And it's filthy, and there's these kids that are locked in there. And when they find them, I think they're like 15, 13, and 12, something like that. But they've been in there for years, literally years, and the mother hasn't been there in years. Food would be dropped off like once a week. I don't know what kind of food, because I'm guessing it's going to rot. It's a horrible story. Tell us more.
what happened is in February, officials and the sheriff's deputies in Oakland County got a call from a landlord and said, I haven't seen a lot of activity at this particular rental unit that I have. The person who's renting it hasn't paid in a while. Can you please do a welfare check? And we're talking seasoned officers going into this home and will never forget what they saw. And you said hoarders. I think it, based on their testimony, that would be a generous description of what was found. This woman abandoned her kids, they estimate, in the year 2020 or 2021. They have not been going to school since then. And they were in this home. They did not flush the toilets. They didn't know basic hygiene. It described the toenails of the oldest child as being so long that he couldn't even walk around the apartment. Trash was everywhere. And an officer testified that when he got into the house, he would have put money on the fact that there would have been a dead body in there. That is the deplorable conditions that these children were living in for years. And apparently, according to testimony, she had scared them into not even going outside. So when officers found this, they went and they arrested the mother, 34-year-old Kelly Bryant. She is headed to trial on 3 counts of child abuse and also welfare fraud. The children are now in the care of a relative. Child Protective Services is involved, and it is just a sad ongoing story.
Where was mom?
She wasn't around. She left these kids in an apartment. She was living elsewhere, and she would drop meals off to them, but really no.
So she knew they were in there, obviously, and she dropped
did know
food.
that they were in there, and
Just
she
horrible.
told them, yeah, she told them don't leave, don't contact anyone. So they were just all alone in this dark, deplorable living condition, and just praying that these kids are able to move beyond that.
Yeah, it's just one of the worst stories I've ever heard. I'm gonna have to leave it there. Listen, if you want to keep up on the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it may be, MichiganNewsSource.com is the place to go. Katie's one of the key people there, has been for a number of years. Katie, thank you as always.
Thank you.
All right, MichiganNewsSource.com. If you want an alternative to all that left-leaning garbage media in Michigan, go to MichiganNewsSource.com. You won't have that problem. MichiganNewsSource.com. You'll be pleased you found it. And you're welcome in advance. MichiganNewsSource.com. Oh, and I'm welcome going forward because you know what? Ivy's on her way into the seat of honor, as she often is. She's coming on in. Ivy's next here on the Steve Gruber Show. Remember, you can always find out more at SteveGruber.com. Read all sorts of great articles by Liberty Page and myself and other great writers. SteveGruber.com. Plus, follow me on X, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. See it live on YouTube and all sorts of other places as well. Man, we're busting tail for you every single day. All right. Well, I'm living right. That's right. Because you know what? I look up and there's like sunshine in the room. And the trumpets play and the birds fly and the angels sing. And then Ivy sits down.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Ivy.
I'm so glad that you think that the angels sing and the sun just
Sparkles.
Sparkles down on me.
It does.
So sweet.
Yeah. What's up? What do you got today? I don't have a lot here. I got a couple things.
Well, I have a few things. I was reading in Delaware, this shipment of thousands of chicks were found abandoned in a USPS truck.
Like chickens?
Like chicks, yeah. So oftentimes this time of year, like TSC or places like that, they'll bring in chicks.
Sure they will.
And even if you go to the post office, oftentimes, at least near us, you can hear the little chicks, you know, chirping in the background because they're being shipped from wherever.
Sure.
But this really, like thousands of chicks were just abandoned. I don't know.
Where was this?
Delaware.
Really?
Yeah.
So weird.
And sadly, because they were left in there for several days, it was hot and they didn't have any access to food and water. So like a couple thousand of them died. But then an animal shelter actually came in, rescued them, and they're trying to get, place them in homes now. All these
Don't tell our
chicks.
daughter we'll have another handful of chicks here.
No kidding. Well, actually, she just hatched one chick yesterday. They should be coming online. Yeah, one chick. She said, the door is closed because I don't want the cats to go in and eat the chick, which is completely understandable.
Yeah.
But, I find this really surprising. I know that there's been a surge in people becoming chicken farmers, getting some backyard chickens.
Chicken rancher, Ivy.
Chicken rancher.
Anyhow, yes, go on.
Because of the high prices of of eggs, not chickens, but of eggs. And it's actually a fun thing to do. We've been doing it a long time, but it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Like, you think of how the chickens get
Well,
to
yesterday we were spending time talking to a guy who runs this operation called Carolina Coops. If you want to see the Rolls Royce of chicken coops, go to Carolina Coops, man.
Yeah,
You're
right?
going to see. Woo!
Well, I was actually thinking that how cool would it be if we made a White House version of a chicken coop? Wouldn't that be cool? It'd be so fitting for us.
Well, here's what we learned, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
What?
We learned that J.D. Vance has been talking to this company about putting a chicken coop at the Naval Observatory so that the vice presidential family can have fresh eggs right there on location. That's what he told us yesterday. And so there's news for you. J.D. Vance.
Interesting.
That little bit of Ohio and Kentucky coming out of that country boy, he wants chickens at the Naval Observatory, which I fully support, by the way.
Yeah, that'd be great. It makes sense to me. Why not? But there's other story that I came upon. Very weird. There is a French restaurant owner. He was serving pizza to his patrons.
All right.
And in that pizza were body parts of a man that he killed.
What?
Chopped up. Cooked.
Where was this?
In France.
I was having a lovely story about chickens, and suddenly we're eating the neighbors. The hell's going on here?
Yeah, a French restaurant owner confessed to killing a recluse man during a botched robbery, then chopping up his body and cooking parts of it in a pot of vegetables to try to cover his tracks, and then put it on pizza. And so his patrons could have possibly eaten this person. Disgusting. Makes me not want to eat French pizza.
Oh, good Lord.
How do you feel about that, Steve?
I feel,
Queasy?
A little bit, actually. Just weird.
It's weird.
Yeah, just weird stuff.
So remember Rachel Levine?
Yeah.
So she was just given a historic women's college honorary degree.
You mean Rachel Levy, the dude?
The dude, who is wasn't he?
Health and Human Services.
He.
It's a dude. Dude looks like a lady. Aerosmith was way ahead of the curve. Exactly.
Yeah. So how cool
and he
is
doesn't even
that?
look like a lady. He looks like the dude.
He looks like a dude. Yeah. So
she got an honorary women's something.
Was given an honorary degree. Come on, from Smith College.
Yeah.
Which was it's a woman's college. I mean, how
shameful for
dumb.
a women's college to give a dude with a mental illness any honorary anything.
There was another story that I had just seen. So there was where was it? I can't recall the state, but there was a track meet. A gal, her PR, she got a PR and she beat her school record.
Right.
And she lost to a transgender, and
Good
so
dude.
he was in first place and she was in second place.
Right.
So they get on the stands or whatever, and he's up at the top. And when he gets down, she gets up on the top, and the crowd goes wild, like like she's actually the winner.
Exactly.
You know,
because she is the winner.
Correct.
Where was that?
I'm trying to think now.
I'm gonna have to look this one up.
Yeah, I can't recall. You would think it would be like, Maine, but it wasn't actually. I looked particularly because it wasn't from Maine, but you could probably find it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But again, it's just like, how ridiculous. But I think a lot more people are just saying no to this, and you have your friends.
Well, it's so easy to say no to this. I mean, it's such a,
well, we're all about equal rights, but how about the rights of women? So it doesn't make any sense. Did you find it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Video athlete climbs to the top of the step of the podium despite being defeated by a trans. There it is. Reese Hogan finished second after losing to A.B. Hernandez, was cheered by the crowd as they shouted "Real champion." Yeah, there she is. That's good move on her part. What's that?
Does it tell you the state?
Let me see here. I'll get to it.
Yeah. Anyhow, but yeah, this is, continuing to happen around the country. You hear about it less and less, and it's not so, mainstream anymore, which I don't think it was ever mainstream, but, the media seems to want to focus on these things. So.
It says it was, the Crean Lutheran High School, but it doesn't say where it is. It's kind of odd. Vaz, you dropped the ball here.
Shocking.
Vaz is usually okay, but they dropped the ball here. I'll tell you that. Anyhow. But yeah, I'm gonna post the video now. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm gonna post the video.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I mean, it's something to look at and always bring attention to, because the more that we get this out there and say, hey, everyone thinks, oh, this doesn't happen.
Yes,
this
it does
is so
happen.
rare. No, it does happen, and it's important to bring.
Rare is not good enough. Never is good enough.
Exactly. 100% agree.
Yeah. Anyhow, thank you, Ivy, as always, for bringing joy to the program and that big smile of yours.
Joy.
Yeah. Joy.
Dead parts and pizza and sad.
And transgender justice.
Yes.
Transjustice. Maybe that's what it said. The Trans Justice Center. Anyhow, I greatly appreciate it. Love you, Ivy.
Love you.
Final thoughts after this. here it is. It was in California. I had to find it here. California. That's where it happened. This girl stood up to the podium. Reese Hogan receiving praise on social media over the weekend when she popped onto the first place marker during the podium ceremony and posed for a photo after she lost to a transgender athlete in the triple jump. Hogan is an athlete from Crean Lutheran High School, California. Great story, Ivy. I didn't see this one. Set a personal record and a school record in the triple jump at 37 feet 2 inches. During the meet on Saturday, she was competing in Division III of the California Interscholastic Federation. The transgender athlete from Jurupa defeated Hogan by more than 4 feet. That athlete also won the long jump. Hogan, with a medal around her neck, smiled as she stepped up onto the first place spot. Once the ceremony was finished, the junior received massive cheers, and the video that circulated around social media praised her as the real champion. Yeah, she's only 16. She'll be back. That's a great story. Proud of her for doing that. The state of California is still fighting Donald Trump, thinking that boys should somehow be allowed to compete against girls. Who thinks it's all right for boys to compete against girls in sport? I mean, I don't. It's a silly idea. By the way, new polling shows that Donald Trump's approval is jumping dramatically since his Middle East trip. That's what I'm seeing. His approval numbers are jumping. Insider Advantage has Donald Trump's approval rating at 55-44. 55-44. Plus 11. Insider Advantage. Look, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. All right. That's it for today. We're going to call it the day. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is The Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.